I didn't think anything of it when she came home with champagne. We did it, she said, setting the bottle on the counter with a grin that caught the light in her eyes. Escrow's closed. We're homeowners. I should have known. I should have looked closer. But you don't doubt the woman who sleeps beside you. Not when her hair is still damp from the morning shower, not when her voice still makes you feel like you're the only one she sees in a room. We clinked glasses. She kissed me on the cheek, then on the lips, and whispered, "This is the start of everything." It was. We'd sold my place, the old colonial my dad built with his own hands in upstate New York. It had rot in the porch, rust in the pipes, and 27 years of memories that still creaked in the floorboards. But she said it made sense. Her new job was downstate, an hour outside the city. The commute would be hell. You can work anywhere, she'd said, but this is a real opportunity for me. So I sold it. Packed up the tools, the photographs, the boxes labeled with my mother's handwriting, and handed the keys to a stranger. I watched the for sale sign come down from the lawn I'd mowed every summer since I was 12. And I told myself I was doing it for us. The new place was beautiful. Modern, cold, sterile in a way I tried not to acknowledge. All open space and clean lines and quartz counters that looked like they belonged in a magazine spread. She loved it. Said she felt lighter. Said she could breathe here. I unpacked the boxes mostly alone. She had work, early mornings, late nights, weekends. I kept telling myself it would settle. That we'd fall into a rhythm. That she was just trying to prove herself. The stress would pass. But stress doesn't make you forget anniversaries. It doesn't make you change your passwords, or start locking your phone screen when you go to the bathroom. And it sure as hell doesn't make you start smiling when you think no one's watching, but only when you're texting. I noticed. But I didn't say anything. I've always hated confrontation. That's my flaw. Maybe that's why this happened. No. That's how I let it happen. It started with the mail. A certified envelope came addressed to her maiden name. Weird, but not unheard of, she still used it professionally sometimes. I left it on the table. When I came back, it was gone. Who was the letter from? I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't look up from her salad. Just a work thing. Some legal stuff for a project. I nodded, smiled, chewed. That was a Tuesday. By Friday, I found myself in the office flipping through the drawer where we kept paperwork. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe I just needed to feel stupid. Get it out of my system. Prove to myself there was nothing there. But the deed wasn't in our file. The mortgage statements were. The property tax notice. Even the home warranty paperwork we'd filled out together. But the title? Gone. I sat there in the dark like a ghost, listening to the refrigerator hum in the next room. The only other sound was my pulse, slow and deliberate. I asked her about it. She looked up from her laptop, frowning. The deed? Why? I don't know, I lied. Just curious. We never framed it or anything. She laughed, brushed a hand through her hair. God, you sound like my dad. He did that with every house he bought. You want me to dig it up? No rush, I said. Just wondering. She went back to her screen. But I watched her close 3 tabs first. 3 days later, I requested a copy from the county clerk. It took 4 minutes for the email to arrive. I opened it in the car, hands shaking. There it was. My name on the original offer, the escrow paperwork, even the loan documents. But not on the deed. The quitclaim had been signed and notarized a week before we closed. It transferred full title to the Brighton Family Trust, an entity I'd never heard of. Trustee, Evelyn Brighton. Brighton, her maiden name. My heart tried to punch a hole through my ribs. I went back through the paperwork on my phone, scrolling until I found a scanned PDF she'd emailed me that day in the kitchen. Just sign it, babe. It's the standard stuff. I already looked it over. And I had. Sort of. I'd trusted her. I'd signed. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. I lay beside her, wide awake, while she scrolled through Instagram like nothing had changed. She laughed once, quietly, at something she saw. Her leg brushed mine. I didn't move. Eventually, she turned and curled against me, hand resting on my chest. I stared at the ceiling until morning. The lawyer I called said it wasn't uncommon. People do it for all kinds of reasons, he said. Tax advantages. Asset protection. Privacy. But what if the person didn't know what they were signing? He paused. Did you ask her? No, then start there. But be careful. People don't hide things they're proud of. I confronted her the next evening. We were in the kitchen again, as if the setting made betrayal more poetic. "Who is the Brighton Trust?" I asked. She blinked. "A beat too long." "I looked up the deed," I said. "You didn't tell me you filed a quitclaim." She set the knife down on the cutting board. Slowly. "I was going to. It was just easier that way." "For who?" "For both of us. Look, I didn't think you'd care. You said yourself you didn't want to deal with the legal stuff. I didn't say I wanted to be erased." She sighed, turned away. Opened a cabinet, closed it again. "I thought we were partners," I said. "We are," she said. "But sometimes one person has to take the lead. You said you trusted me." I didn't respond. Because she was right. I had. That night, I drank alone on the back deck until the air got too cold for it. I watched the lights go out in the houses down the hill, one by one. I thought about calling my brother, but couldn't figure out what I'd say. She took everything. Not yet. But it felt like a formality now. Something in her had already decided. And I'd signed the permission slip. She didn't bring it up again. No apologies. No explanations. "No, I understand why you're upset." By the next morning, she acted like the conversation never happened. Like it was a pebble in the road, not the chasm it had opened under us. She was making coffee, humming. I watched her from the hallway. Something about her back, how straight it was, how purposeful, felt foreign. Like I was staring at a stranger wearing my wife's skin. I thought about leaving. About packing a bag and driving north until the roads got narrow and the sky got wide again. But I didn't. Because I still didn't know how deep this went. And part of me needed to know. I called the bank that afternoon. Asked about the mortgage. Asked whose name was on it. The loan officer confirmed what I already knew but still needed to hear, both of ours. "So the debt is shared, but the asset isn't," I said flatly. He hesitated. "That's one way to put it." I thanked him and hung up. In plain English, I was on the hook for $500,000, but had no legal claim to the house itself. If she defaulted, they'd come after me. But if we sold, I'd see nothing. I'd become a ghost with a signature. I didn't ask her why. Not directly. Instead, I started watching. Really watching. She kept her laptop close. Password protected. Her phone never left her side. Even in the shower. She started getting more packages. Boxes from boutique brands she never used to care about. A pair of shoes that cost more than our old car's transmission. A silk robe that looked like it belonged in a magazine ad. "I thought we were trying to save," I said once, watching her unbox something with gold accents. "It was on sale," she replied, without looking up. A week later, I checked our joint account. She'd moved most of the money into a new one I didn't recognize. And then I knew. I found the lawyer's name in her desk drawer. Folded in half. Scribbled in the corner of a sticky note, "Initial consult Thursday at 9 a.m. That morning, she told me she was heading into the city early for meetings. I nodded, heart pounding, and waited until she left. Then I followed her. She didn't go to Manhattan. She parked outside a dull gray office park 20 minutes away, pulled her coat tight, and went inside. The sign on the door, "Law Offices of Harding and Keel, Family Law." I waited. 90 minutes later, she came out with a folder under her arm and that same purposeful stride. She didn't look back. That night, I confronted her again. I didn't plan it. I just couldn't carry it anymore. "You saw a lawyer today," I said. Her face went still. Like a TV frame frozen mid-expression. She said nothing. "Don't lie to me," I said. "I followed you." There it was, the flicker of anger. "You what?" "I had to. You won't tell me the truth, Evie. You're hiding things, changing accounts, stealing my name off legal documents." "I didn't steal anything," she snapped. "You signed it. You tricked me. I protected myself." The words echoed in the kitchen. She didn't take them back. I slept in the guest room that night. Or tried to. I lay awake, listening for footsteps, the soft creak of the floorboards, the quiet shift of her weight in the bed we used to share. But the house was silent. I wondered if this was how it felt to go missing from your own life. The letter came a week later. Plain white envelope, postmarked local. Inside, divorce papers. Filed under her maiden name. No mention of joint property. No shared assets. She'd claimed the house as separate, citing the trust. I flipped through the pages, waiting to see my name where it should have been. It was there. But only in the signature box. I called the lawyer I'd spoken to before. "She's claiming the house was never marital property," I said. He exhaled through his nose. She's using the trust as a firewall. She used our money for the down payment. Can you prove it? I don't know. There might be a trail. But it won't be easy. What about the quitclaim? Can I challenge it? You signed it. Notarized. Unless you can prove fraud, coercion, he trailed off. I filled in the silence. I'm screwed. He didn't argue. I looked back through every transaction, every transfer, every shred of documentation. There were holes. The earnest money came from our joint account. So did the wire for closing. But she must have backfilled it later. Moved it from her personal account into the trust to muddy the waters. I remembered her saying she'd handle the wires. I'd been on a work call, distracted. She said she didn't want to bother me. She never made noise when she slipped the knife in. I confronted her a third and final time. I wanted to see her face. You set this up a long time ago, I said. Didn't you? She didn't look surprised. I was trying to protect my future. What about our future? She laughed. A bitter, flat sound. I stopped believing in that the day you sold your house without a second thought. I stared at her. You asked me to. You didn't even hesitate, she said. Didn't fight for it. Just folded. Like always. She stepped past me, like the conversation bored her. You think I'm the villain here, she added, glancing back. You gave me the keys. I didn't know what to say. She was right. In a way that made my stomach turn. I did give her everything. Blind, eager, trusting. And she'd turned that into a weapon. Not all betrayals are about violence. Some are just quiet rearrangements of trust, done while you're asleep, humming in the kitchen, looking the other way. I didn't see it coming. But I see it now. I didn't move out right away. There's a kind of paralysis that sets in when your life collapses slowly. It's not like an explosion. It's not dramatic. It's a slow leaking of air from something you thought was sealed tight. I stayed in the guest room. She didn't ask me to leave, and I didn't ask her why. We lived like silent roommates for the next few weeks. Meals taken separately. Doors closed. Conversations reduced to practicalities. There was no fight. Just the sound of two people quietly exiting a life they'd spent years pretending to build. I kept digging. I had to. I couldn't accept it, not yet. There had to be something. A mistake. A technicality. Some tiny crack in the wall she'd built. I went back through the old files again, the ones from my childhood home sale. It hit me like a sucker punch when I found it. The wire from the sale hadn't gone into our joint account. It had gone into hers. The routing number matched the one she'd used for the Brighton Trust deposit. And I had signed the transfer documents blind. She didn't use a cent of her own money to buy the house. It had all been mine. I remember the day we sold it. The last walk through. She'd squeezed my hand and said, "We're shedding old skin." I thought it meant something. That we were stepping forward, together. But she'd already gutted the future behind my back. Paper by paper. Transfer by transfer. She hadn't just taken the house. She'd taken home. I brought the documents to my lawyer. He read them quietly, eyebrows drawing together. When he finally looked up, his mouth was tight. This changes things. It's not a slam dunk, but, there's leverage here. You think I have a case? You think she's going to admit it? That she used your money for separate property, then buried it in a trust? I can prove it. Then it's worth fighting. He leaned back. But it's going to get ugly. It did. Her lawyer responded within 3 days. Cold. Clinical. They denied everything. Claimed the funds were gifted, the house was never commingled, and the trust was established independently prior to marriage, a lie I could disprove. We went to mediation first. She didn't look at me once. Just sat there, calm and polished, like none of this meant anything. She argued that I was unstable. That I refused to contribute to household planning. That I was emotionally volatile. I wanted to laugh. But the words stung because they were rooted in truths she'd twisted. Half-truths are harder to fight than lies. They sound reasonable. They sound like something a judge might believe. After the session, I caught her in the hallway. You rewrote history, I said quietly. She didn't flinch. Just met my eyes with that practiced stillness I used to mistake for kindness. You were never paying attention, she said. You made it easy. That's what I remember most. Not the betrayal. The casualness of it. As if love was a transaction, and she'd simply read the fine print better than I had. Court was set 6 weeks out. In the meantime, I had to move. She filed a motion to have me vacate the house. Said it was causing her stress. That my unsettled presence was interfering with her work. My lawyer tried to fight it, but the trust shielded her. The deed was ironclad. I had 10 days to leave. Packing was surreal. Every object felt like a relic of a life that had never existed. The books I'd brought from my old house. The framed photo from our first trip to Maine. The cufflinks she'd given me on our second anniversary, engraved with my initials, now hollow. I boxed them up in silence. She wasn't home. She made sure of that. The last thing I packed was a letter. Not hers. Mine. I wrote it by hand and left it on the kitchen counter, where she'd find it under the edge of the fruit bowl she always forgot to refill. It wasn't angry. Just final. You taught me something I'll never forget. A person can smile while they steal from you. A person can kiss you goodnight after hiding the knife. I didn't lose a house. I lost the illusion that love was safe. And I'll never make that mistake again. I drove north. Past the rivers, past the slow curve of Route 9, past the diner where we'd stopped the day we signed the offer on the new place. I didn't stop. Just kept going, into the hills where the fog hangs low and the roads narrow like they're warning you to slow down. I stayed with my brother for a while. Told him pieces of it. Enough to get it out of my chest, not so much that it poisoned the air between us. He didn't say much. Just poured a second drink and told me I wasn't the first person to lose everything to someone they thought they knew. He said, at least now you know who you're not. The lawsuit took almost a year. She tried to delay it, drag it out. Claimed discovery was burdensome. Tried to hide documents we both knew existed. But I had the wire transfer. The sale agreement from my old house. The time-stamped communications. A paper trail she hadn't scrubbed carefully enough. In the end, the judge ruled partially in my favor. The trust stood. But I was awarded financial restitution equal to my initial investment, plus attorney's fees. It wasn't justice. Not really. But it was something. A recognition that I'd been played. That I hadn't imagined it. That I mattered. I never saw her again. Didn't want to. Some people are like echoes in a locked room. If you listen too long, you forget what silence feels like. I bought a place of my own 6 months later. Small. Older. The kind of house that creaks when the heat kicks in and smells like pine after it rains. It reminded me of my dad's place, not in how it looked, but in how it felt. Like something earned. It didn't have quartz counters or vaulted ceilings. The bathroom needed work, and the basement flooded if the storm drain backed up. But it was mine. Title in my name. Deed in my drawer. No trust. No hidden signatures. No lies. Just wood, nails, and the quiet hum of a space that didn't owe anything to anyone. Sometimes I still wake up reaching for her. Not because I miss her. But because I miss who I thought she was. There's a difference. People talk about betrayal like it's a sharp thing. A knife. A single moment when everything changes. But that's not how it really works. Betrayal is soft. It's slow. It's warm fingers around your wrist, guiding you gently toward the edge. You step forward because you trust them. Because they smile when they lie. Because they make you believe the ground is still there. And by the time you fall, they're already gone. I kept the letter she wrote me after the settlement. It came in a pale envelope, no return address. I knew her handwriting instantly. I didn't do this to hurt you, I just didn't want to wake up 10 years from now and still be waiting for you to become someone you're not. I needed more. I always did. You just never noticed. No apology. Just a final underline of the same story she told herself during our entire unraveling, that she hadn't betrayed me, she'd just outgrown me. I read it once. Then I burned it. Watched the ink blacken, curl, disappear into ash. People ask sometimes, what happened with the divorce? Friends who knew us casually. Old coworkers who haven't heard. I tell them we grew apart. They nod. Say sorry. Ask no more. Because nobody wants to hear that the person you loved stole your past and tried to erase your future. Nobody wants to believe someone can look you in the eye, call it love, and still leave you holding the bill. So I keep it simple. We grew apart. But in the quiet places, where the air doesn't carry words and the house settles around me like an exhale, I remember the truth. I remember the trust one gave away. The home I surrendered. The woman who looked me in the eyes and asked me to believe. And I remember the paper. How light it felt in my hand. How final. How stupid. Now, I read everything. Every line. Every clause. Every subsection. People laugh about it. Friends say I'm paranoid. Maybe I am. But some scars live in your hands, not your skin. Some mistakes teach you to carry a flashlight into every room. Not because you expect shadows, but because you've seen what they can hide. I've rebuilt. Not everything. Not all the way. But enough. Enough to know I won't be fooled again. Enough to know I can lose everything and still wake up the next day. And enough to know that love without honesty is just a performance waiting for its curtain drop. I'll never forget her. Not out of bitterness. But because remembering is how I remind myself of the price of blind faith. So now, I hold the pen tighter. I read the paper twice. And I never, sign anything until I've seen what's written beneath the surface. Because sometimes, the worst betrayals don't come with blood. They come with ink. And the paper. The paper was already signed.